This is Sportscentre.
Hey, I'm Luca Celebre, and let's start on the ice. Because other than Jesse Pollock, who would have thought the Jets would be one of 3 remaining undefeated teams in the NHL, with Tampa and Calgary? Yeah, tough start for the Avs, who are the inverse of they haven't won a game yet or even gotten a single point. So hearing it a little more from Jesse these days. While Tampa and Calgary are both lighting up the league by scoring goals, Tampa at 4 a game, Calgary at 4.75, which is good for second in the NHL. The Jets are in the middle of the pack with a modest 3.33 goals per game, but it's keeping pucks out of the net where they've been elite so far this season, allowing just 0.66 goals per game, first in the NHL by a mile. Connor Hellebuyck looks back to his Vezina form, as his .976 save percentage also leads the NHL. Looking at the upcoming schedule though, this run could go a little longer, and hopefully 1 week and 1 day to be exact, where we could have a potential battle of the unbeatens between Winnipeg and Calgary. That would be amazing. I hope both teams go into that matchup undefeated. Calgary's been such a surprise, and I think it's really nice to see considering the kind of years they've had with the rebuild and trading everyone away and Huberdeau not playing well, so it's nice to see them start strong. Those of you in the Jets region can watch the Sharks and Jets tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 8 Central. It's clearly game of the week and likely game of the year. A Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and 49ers. And we can't wait to watch it. Time now for Eminem's Huddle. So let's huddle with our home team and look ahead to a wild Sunday in the NFL. This will be the 10th regular season rematch of the previous year's Super Bowl in NFL history, with the Super Bowl champs going 6-3 in those games. And for Patrick Mahomes, he loves seeing the Niners on the schedule, as he's 4-0 in his career against San Fran, with 2 of those wins obviously coming in the biggest game, the Super Bowl. But look at those numbers. He's averaging 339 passing yards a game, 10 touchdowns, and 4 picks in his career against San Fran. And we all remember he had to lead pretty decent-sized comebacks in both of those Super Bowls. I've been at all 3 Kansas City Super Bowls, and they've won in thrilling fashion every single time. So, there's no world in which Mahomes isn't the most, clutch, greatest quarterback I've ever seen in my life, because I've seen him do it 3 times on the biggest stage. But this year's Chiefs look very different, as they're averaging the fewest pass yards per game in the Mahomes era, at 236.8 yards per game, and the most rush yards per game in the Mahomes era, at 117.8 yards per game. But when looking at the play call splits, this is clearly by design, as they also have the lowest pass play percentage at 53%, and the highest run play percentage, 47% of the Mahomes era. You can watch the Chiefs against the Niners Sunday on CTV. Coverage begins at 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific. Ooh, this is so tough, but I honestly think the 49ers finally get one over on Mahomes. They've been a weird team so far this year, but I think they're better than what they've put on the field, and they're gonna prove that in this game. Time now for my favorite segment and yours, Why We Love Sports Today.
Why we love sports today.
And sometimes being a young sports fan is tough. Like when your favorite player gets traded, and you didn't even know trades existed until that moment. And like any good parent, this dad they were recorded and put it on the internet.
So today, Amari Cooper got traded.
What's traded?
It means that he's not on the Cleveland Browns anymore.
What?
I know, man. It's really sad.
Oh, your heart breaks for the kid just to see that. I've never personally gone through that moment as a kid, but for me that moment was like Patrick Waugh retiring and watching his last game where he lost to the Wild. This is way worse though. This is his heart is just shattered into a million pieces, as if it wasn't bad enough being a Browns fan. Time now for the CFL preview, powered by FanDuel. It's the final 2 weeks of the CFL season. We kick off tonight with Calgary against Hamilton. Now, both of these teams won't be playing playoff football, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot on the line personally. Bo Levi Mitchell leads the league in both passing yards and touchdowns, but he's only 2 up on MBT. Before last week against Winnipeg, Mitchell had thrown for 7 touchdown passes and over 300 yards in 3 of 4 games. So his alt passing yard number of 325 plus at plus 125 is pretty intriguing. You know we're giving you a gem if we're going alt line, okay? Hamilton loves to air it out, and they've got 4 wideouts that could end the year with 1,000 yards. Tim White leads that group in yards, but he's gone over 70 just once in the last 4 games. So is he due? Well, his alt line of 70 plus yards at plus 115 seems like pretty good value. You know that's where we're putting our money. And you can watch the Stamps and Tie Cats tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. To the WNBA, and tonight could be the night, as the Liberty are 1 win away from their first ever WNBA championship. And it was always headed to this point this season, wasn't it? The Liberty have been in the W since its inception in 1997, and they're in their 6th finals appearance. But somehow they've never won the title. But this team is different, and as we've told you all year, they're absolutely loaded with talent. And let's be honest, wherever Breanna Stewart goes, she usually leaves with a championship. Well, actually, usually multiple championships. And when it's all said and done, she might be the most decorated player in WNBA history. She's got 4 NCAA titles, 2 WNBA titles, and likely adding a 3rd tonight, as well as 3 Olympic gold medals. And she's been the difference in this series, especially in Game 3, where she dropped 30 and 11 and added 4 blocks. No one's surprised she's the heavy favorite to win Finals MVP on FanDuel. I have no takes on the game tonight other than I want the Liberty to win. I went to a Liberty game earlier this year. Atmosphere was electric at Barclays, and watching Breanna Stewart live was just very special. Hope she wins one for New York, and it'll be a really cool moment if they get this done. You can watch Game 4 of the WNBA Finals tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Now joined by our guy Tim Hraney from Austin, Texas. Great to see you, Tim.
Hey, Luca. Thanks very much for having me. It's good to see you.
Tim, Austin is the center of the sports universe this weekend. We've got #1 Texas hosting #5 Georgia in college football, and race day on Sunday. What is the vibe and energy like in one of America's most fun cities?
Oh man, I love coming to Austin. Every time Formula One comes to town, this place just absolutely explodes. It's great. Factor in, also got that big college football game that's going on this weekend too. This place is ready to explode because there are so many people here and everybody's having a great time. Plus the barbecue is really good.
Okay, finally, when it comes to the race on Sunday, Max has a slight lead on Lando in the driver's standings. You spoke with both guys yesterday. How are they feeling about this race with just 6 to go?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think one of the things I noticed the most was just the confidence level between the 2 drivers when I spoke to them. Lando, seemed very relaxed. He seemed quite confident. I think it's always easier when you're the driver who's chasing the other driver for a championship, where that driver who's in the lead has a lot more pressure on their shoulders. When I spoke with Max, didn't seem his normal confident self when I was talking to him. Red Bull's been in a pretty big slump lately, especially with their car. I think Max has been driving fantastically. But for this weekend, Red Bull's brought some sizable upgrades to their car, but McLaren has brought a lot of updates to this machine that you see sitting behind me back here. And I think this is a crucial weekend for Red Bull as well. It's a sprint weekend, so there's a lot of points up for grabs. And if Lando dominates this weekend, he's going to take a huge chunk out of Max Verstappen's lead in the championship.
Tim Hraney, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thanks so much for having me, Luke. I really appreciate it. Tell producer Chris I said thanks as well.
And you can watch the United States Grand Prix Sunday on TSN. Coverage begins at 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. That's all for me today. Marissa will be back on Monday, probably being sad about the Mets. Have a good one.